All right. Good morning, everybody. It is 7:45 a.m. I wanted to talk about the four layers, or actually there might be more, but in this article there's four. But I wanted to discuss, and talk about the layers of self-defense with everybody. As you all may know, the layers of self-defense goes into many different categories. There's first off, there's hand combat. Then there's definitely sections of it. There's amateur hand combat, and then there's experienced hand combat. There's Then you go into the category of use of certain type of non-lethal weaponry. This can involve things from the first degree, which would lead into your pepper spray, the second degree that would actually lead into a taser, and then a third degree, which would lead into something known as like a baton or a blunt type weapon. Then you get to it usually just varies, right? Normally, when you hit the third degree, that would be that's definitely the second category. However, um, it goes into another section to where there's a person who is experienced with it. You got two different sides there. You got the amateur use, and then you got the experienced use. So there's two different sides to that. Then you go farther into what you would know as your firearms. Now, here's the thing. Um, Whenever a person is being threatened, the only time you never use the one thing you don't ever want to use is a firearm, unless you're threatened with the same amount of force. That is the only time you should ever have to use one of those things is when you're actually are threatened with the same amount of force. Just having one on your hip, that's nothing. That's nothing. We have the understand everybody. You do have the right to bear arms. That is within the Constitution. So it's written right in the Second Amendment. But there's again there's amateur use and there's experienced use. The difference of these of experienced use, as you know, is a person who has a lot more experience with with the ways of self defense. Now, in my situation, of course, I carry. In fact, I've already disassembled two of them, so I may have to get a new one. But I carry, as far as self defense, is the first thing I use before it ever leads into self defense of weaponry of any kind or hand to hand combat. There's also verbal defense. Verbal defense if is the one thing that must be used in every given situation because you could always talk your situation down, literally lower down the temp of the heated situation to where you can disengage it. So definitely learn a way with words because that will definitely come in handy. Um, One of the things that I normally do is like, as you all know, I am a targeted individual. The perps have tried like several, and I mean they tried this a lot, dude. They tried several they tried verbalized threats. Here's a line of defense that I use against that. I always keep an audio recorder on me. Why? Because I'll be able to catch that will be evidence that I catch as I'm walking by. And it will be not out in the open, but in a bag concealed somewhere. So it's not like I'm intentionally going out to record nobody. No, it's just a device that's like in my possession. That's not out there and about just trying to record people. It's just it records and catches the many different things that they will say in my presence. So what's going to happen when you hear multiple things like this in your presence? There's your line of defense. That gives you proof of verbal harassment. Everybody, this is exactly why they stole my audio recorder because I was using this tactic against them. They didn't like that. So I don't ever I keep my options open though. I keep everything as need be. Everybody, and I do mean everybody does need to be in possession of a firearm, okay? I'm sorry, but that is it's the situation is as it is. And these are some really, you see how dark the situation is. You see what they're doing in China. They're pulling residents out of their houses and stuff, man. I definitely agree with people to definitely be able to bear arms and be able to protect themselves, but it must be taken in considerable care, at the utmost care. The person must, be at a level pace. You need to really, really level your options out. You need to really be able to analyze the situation, and the only option that should always be the number one thing is to always talk the situation down. That's the number one important thing. That is to always talk the situation down. It should never have to go as far as violence. It should never have to go as far as to a point to where like you have to engage. It should never have to lead into that. If you can talk the situation down, always use that tool. Always use that, because that leads into a position where nobody has to get hurt. Nothing really too serious happens. It can be just a simple argument dispute. It gets talked down and it gets distinguished just like that. However, you do have people there is possible situations to where this is not possible. And I speak, of course, people and fellow TIs. This has happened before. There have been situations to where this manipulation has been used on people, and they weren't able to really handle themselves. This is why it's very important to basically get this stuff out of your system too. Because it's unfair that you need to you got to have these steps to be able to protect yourself. But at the same time, for them to use these weapons to, take hold of you like that, this is why it's important to basically decondition yourself from the PTSD of which they try to inflict on you. This goes as far as their color harassment. And hold on, let me make sure this thing is recording. Okay, good. This can go as far as their color harassment, the verbal harassment, the gesture harassment. What I mean by gestures is like they will play the theatrics of something as a reference to something. Of something that they're saying they're gonna, that they're saying that they're referencing that they're gonna do, basically, is what I'm getting at. So there's also that as well. And this has happened. Oh yes, that has definitely happened. But you gotta understand, you have to stop reacting to what they're doing. That's what they want you to do. The more you keep reacting to it, the more it's going to keep bothering you, and the more and more they're going to keep using that against you to break you down, to break down your mental state, to break down your rationality, and that's what they want. Again, these people who do this kind of crimes, they're definitely criminals, and it's just criminals exploiting the ill-informed. And unfortunately, some of these ill-informed are just okay with just fucking with people. They're okay with doing this dumb stuff without realizing that there are consequences for this kind of shit. There are. Even if you're doing this to a TI, there are still consequences for your actions. Again, everybody should definitely have a firearm on them. That's just my personal. That's just what I believe, considering the situation. But for fellow TIs, you have to extract this nano shit out of your system. You have to change your diet around, and you have to deal with the PTSD before you even go as far as go as far as anything like that. For me, anybody who has a firearm, look, man, the way I see it, the way I suggest it, I would just keep the thing in like a lockbox, and it should never ever have to be used. But in situations, how dangerous it can get. It's better to be prepared than to not have that option to protect yourself at all. It's better to be prepared than to not have that option to protect yourself from all. This is what I was getting at when I was mentioning people going off grid. You're going to have a firearm on you, because, what's going to stop them from going to where, if this stuff really goes far south, what's stopping them from going to you with firearms? That's it. That's just it. Like for me, I would just resist. And dude, they would have to basically, even if I was unarmed, they would have to basically shoot me, because I'm gonna literally fight tooth and nail, because I'm not taking that needle. No, absolutely not. No. But one thing is to always, and this is with any type of self-defense weapon, anything like that at all, always exercise both caution and safety. That is very important. Very important. I don't even have to stress how serious that is. I've seen a lot of videos where people were really doing very stupid things they had absolutely no business doing. Some of these led into accidents. Some of these led into close calls. And honestly, all I can tell you is, and this is a reason why I don't watch TikTok. There was a guy did a video on some of the stuff that these idiots were doing, and it's stupid because like they give good gun owners a bad fucking name. People who do exercise safety, people who actually are taking care of their firearms, not doing anything that would consider dangerous to the people around them. It's really a shame. No, you know that like it gives all gun owners a really bad name, in my opinion. It does. But the one desperate thing that they want is to take away the guns. You can't let that happen. You can't, because in fact there was an article that this guy had posted on his YouTube channel, and he noted like certain occurrences that happened in periods of time in certain years, and he even had the numbers of amount of people who died as a result of the guns being taken away. 300,000, 400,000, 156,000, and the list just went on. But anyway, remember, the first line of defense that you have is always verbalization. You can always talk a situation down. This is very important. I'm making this video for educational purpose so people will know their layers of defense. The first layer of defense you have, foremost and all the way, is your verbalization. The second one would be hand-to-hand combat. And I suppose I did mention, I actually had labeled these a bit wrong when it came to number, but the degrees were right, though. The degrees were right. And the same experience goes for verbalization, too. You got people who are not experienced with verbalized defense, and you got people who are, experienced with verbalized defense. But practice makes perfect. That's why you got to learn the ins and outs of a situation. The more you analyze a situation, the more you can basically handle it. Remember, these assholes are out there to set fellow TIs. Remember, those perps, those goons that do this shit, they're out there to set you up. They don't want it the other way around. So they put a lot of effort into their bullshit. They really do. They definitely do. The trick is when they try that, you need to you have the ability to flip the script, because remember, the shit is a fucking setup. So you can call it out for what it is, as long as you look at the individual parts as to builds the foundation of their bullshit. When you do that, then I mean they're basically exposed. You know how many cops didn't want to fucking talk to me because of me doing that? I'm not kidding. The police didn't want to talk to me. My old boss at my old job, he didn't want to talk to me. The freaking some of the people in HR, it was this one lady, but it wasn't her. I don't believe she was aware. I won't mention her name, but I don't believe she was aware. Like I said before, I believe I was on Steven Stacy's channel live stream when I mentioned this. That there's like there were certain people like who were going to help me in this, who they would fear that would help me in the situation, so they got rid of them. They just got rid of them because they were just too afraid of them. But yeah, man, that's just thing. That's just the thing, though. So I wanted to make this video not just for fellow TIs, but for everybody out there, because everybody's gonna need to know this. You do have layers of defense, and you have to know how to use them. Okay, so awareness, avoidance, de-escalation, boundary setting, the steps before, physical defense, align, burris. I don't even know how to pronounce that appropriately. So as you see, awareness, avoidance, de-escalation, and you see that even before your defensive verbalization, that's yet another sign of defense. You can just walk away from the situation. Remember, as long as you had nothing to do with it, and you had nothing to do with it, and you have evidence to back that up, this is why I keep the camera glasses, because it helps me in a certain situation. This is why I keep a voice recorder, because if I'm not using the glasses, the voice recorder catches any verbalization bullshit that happens. So if they try to say that, oh, I said something, oh no. Let's look back at the voice recorder then, since you want to make falsified accusations. So that gives me evidence that a random individual who I don't know is making false accusations against me. Now, what? Now I'll have the right to basically ask that person, what is your motivation for doing this? Clearly, they would have had been. Nobody just does that shit out, unless they're being offered something, which has been a common thing that has happened for years. There ain't no denying that. And if they still try to deny it, dude, they're just trying to get out of it. They just gotta try to get out of it because they know they're fucked. They know they fucked up. This is why they don't try this shit with me very often, because I know how to utilize this stuff against them. And no, it doesn't even matter even if I mention this for them to hear, because it's still going to be the same thing regardless. Even if they try to come up with some other, situation, like, it won't change that fact. Everything they do can get documented. Everything, every single thing that they do can be documented. The only time you should ever use a firearm, any other gun owner will tell you this. The only time you should ever have to use a firearm is two situations. Two. It could be one to where you're met with the same amount of force. So, of course, you would have to use the same amount of force in the line of defense. Now, if you're in your home, first off, if someone's breaking into your home, I don't give a fuck if you're even if you're not a TI. This goes for everybody. If someone is breaking into your home, first off, and you got to really, this is very important for everybody to know. If they start running out the front door, do not fire off a shot. Don't. Absolutely not. Do not do that. The only time that you are well within your rights to where you would have to ever fire off a round, ever, is if they are charging at you. But that doesn't mean that you can't have it in your hand. That doesn't mean you can't have it in your possession as you're walking about in your home. Because remember, they're intruded on your place. They were not invited. They are breaking and entering, which is definitely a crime. And they have no business doing what they're doing. You don't know those people. You don't know what they may have. So that gives you that, that right, especially with you being in your own home. I mean, come on. To have that firearm in your possession for your line of protection. Because, I mean, you don't know, again, you don't know that person, you don't know what they may have, and that's just it. But again, if you catch them running out, I repeat, do not, and I mean this, do not fire off any rounds. It's always make sure you keep your safety on your firearms. If anything, like when it comes to line of defense in public areas, the best thing, again, you got your you could just walk away from the situation. But if they're progressing, they're being too aggressive and they're progressing this, trying to escalate it. Well, you could try, again, you got their line of defense of verbalization. You got your other line of defense, which is the voice recorder, and you got a third line of defense, which is, it could be pepper spray if they try to engage. You got your pepper spray and your taser. You got those two things to protect yourself. So if it comes to it, non-lethal is the best way to go. Even if they have a knife, pepper spray is still a good thing, because remember, like, what good is a knife if they can't see anything? Also, it's good to get in line of hand-to-hand combat. It's always good to know some techniques with that. If you want to know how to, here's the thing: anybody trying to teach you, like, this is how you fight people out on the streets, some of the tips would be somewhat useful, but you got to understand, there's no rules out on the streets. When it comes to a street fight, there are no rules, dude. And that's just the harsh truth. Some people may not like to hear it, but it is very important to know this. Understand, this organization that has been torturing people, they have been involved and they have been responsible for the deaths of many people. Many people. Everybody needs to remember, you did not, I didn't even consent to this shit either. I didn't consent to this stuff being sprayed in the air. I didn't consent to being a project for freaking Project Bluebeam. I didn't consent to being programmed by the CIA's bullshit through a television screen. Remember when you were a kid? Were you not watching TV through a television screen? Remember, we didn't know about any of this shit back then. because of all this crap that they do to hide information, to censor stuff, there's no way we would have known. We may have actually came across one thing or two, but we didn't. We didn't know what we were seeing. None of us did. But anyway, let me go ahead and continue with the article. Self-defense, what is it? Most people immediately think of physical skills such as punching and kicking when you say self-defense. In a flyer I saw recently for a woman's self-defense class, it said participants must bring their own boxing gloves. I'm not sure just what this class taught by some MMA competitors will contain, but teaching women's punching skills in a short class on self-defense isn't the most practical skill. I write and talk about this in other places, and that's true. I myself have actually learned a few skills within MMA. I did not go pro, and I did not go into the advanced classes that they had, but I did learn a few, lines of self-defenses. But at the same time, that's only going to get you so far. And like again, the situation in a hostile situation, it can be very unpredictable. It can, but it doesn't mean you can't you can't disarm the situation. It doesn't mean you can't just walk away. It doesn't mean that you can't just talk the situation down to to lower the temp, of the environment. It doesn't mean you can't do that. You don't ever want it to ever be in a heated degree. I'm sure a lot of TIs, you have all experienced this, to where like a perp will intentionally constantly engage you with randomized bullshit, unnecessary blabber or whatever, and they will keep effing with you. I've experienced this myself. A lot of fellow TIs saw this in the McDonald's incident video that I've uploaded a while ago. As you all know, they kept, you know what they did? And here's the thing, it's a game. It's a freaking game. They're going to keep continuously sending the guy to continue to keep badgering you, to bother you. They'll do this with a female too, possibly. Either a female or a guy, it doesn't really matter what gender. But they'll do that, right? They'll do that, and they will keep sending that person towards you to keep, just to fuck with you, to see how long you're going to respond. Here's the thing. And this is what I've learned after that situation. I only give them 3 warnings. I only tell them, I tell them off for the first situation. I give them a medium warning, and then I give them a complete warning at the end. After that, do I put my hands on them? No. From that point on, even when the conversation engages, I'll just be documenting the whole thing. They'll keep approaching me. They'll keep asking questions and stuff like that, but I won't even respond. I'll just document the whole thing for each and every time that they keep fucking around like that. After I had asked them nicely to leave, after I asked them nicely to leave me alone, that will be on their ass in court. Because that would be clear evidence of harassment right there. Clear evidence. And that's how you need to handle that situation. Don't fall for their bullshit. Because the more they can egg you on, the more they can get in your head, the more they're going to just keep using that against you. This is exactly what happens when it comes to the color harassment, the verbal harassment. They're just going to, if you keep reacting like this, again, if you mention this stuff even on a YouTube channel, they're going to try to use that shit against you. I've been mentioned some of this shit before, and they still have used it against me. Did it work? No. I still ignored it. And that's what you got to do. You got to deprogram yourself from their bullshit. When they act out like that, just give them 3 warnings and then document the evidence. And that's all you need to do. You don't have to get upset. You don't have to get mad. Just document everything, But the problem is, and I did watch Nappy Headed Roots' live stream. They were like vandalizing his car. Here's the thing, though. You got to really document like both the time and the location where this happens, right? There are, like, when you go to certain areas where there are video cameras, there are people who are in charge of those video cameras. So here's a solution for that. If a stunt like that happens and someone does that, you are well within your rights to demand to see footage of that incident happening. You are well within your rights to demand to see that, because that was a crime that took place against your property. And especially considering the situation, that's why when they do something like that, it's best to take the time down. It's best to take the location down. Make sure you got both the street corners written down and the exact time it happened. If you see a vehicle of any color of any kind of where the suspect ran off to, you need to jot that down too. You got to be very detailed with this stuff. You got to have all this stuff documented. You got to have all of that, man. The time and date, the where it happened, when it happened, all of that. You got to have all of that. But TIs, this is why I'm actually planning on just building a houseboat. Because if I build a cabin, it's just going to be the same shit, possibly worse. I can gather up TIs, but at the same time, like I get it. I get it. Like the whole trust issue thing. I get that. I truly do. Like I wouldn't even expect you to just up and trust anybody. I would never ever expect any TI to do that because look at how many fucking people they send at you, man. I know this because I have experienced this. And it's a never ending thing. The only difference is you got to learn how to really handle the situation in a line of defense so you can basically turn that burden into an asset to where you can basically fuck with them back. And that's the one thing that these narcissists hate the most is when you can turn their bullshit against them to where they have to do the running. They have to do the ducking and dodging. They have to be the ones in hiding. Because in this time, like a lot of us TIs, we try to get away from this crap as much as possible, man. The safest place that you could possibly go is having a boathouse. And I say this because of what they're planning on doing. I'm willing to still fight alongside people to end this, but I'm not going to be within the city around October. I'm sorry. That's just not going to happen. And it's because honestly, all of you have experienced this. I'm certain. I'm pretty certain the targeting has ramped up a lot, and I'm gonna tell you why that's happened. The reason why that's happened is because the activities of the people who were hired to do this kind of shit, attention is now in their sector. People are actually starting to keep an eye out on them, and they are being investigated, not just by us fellow TIs. They are being investigated by the UN. But at the same time, you know how this whole bullshit works, right? You can't trust the government. But that doesn't mean that there aren't people in the government that can't be trusted. There are whistleblowers that came from these certain factions, right? There are people who are still willing to fight this stuff, and there are still people who are still employed within the government willing to fight this, as well as there are people employed within the government willing to fight us against from getting the truth out. That's how the situation is. But unfortunately, when it comes to like Democrats and Republicans, I'm sorry, but both the shit is controlled by the opposition. Both of those are. We know this, but it doesn't mean that there aren't people employed there who are not trying to do good and actually trying to do certain things that need to be done. Now then, let me go ahead and continue with the article. Same thing goes with police. You got some good cops out there, but you got a lot of bad apples out there too. You do. And when it comes to a good cop, when they really try to do the right thing, they get fired. When it comes to a nurse or a doctor trying to do the right thing, they lose their license. They get fired. Same thing. Like you get fired for doing the right fucking thing. And it's just like, what the hell? Like this, like you were not hired or given a badge to be doing illegal activity, sir. Or to at least assist criminals. You were not given a badge for that shit. That's not what that's for. But unfortunately, the Nazis, the freaking terrorists, have invaded our government. They have invaded a lot, the police force. They have invaded the medical industry. And this is where the problem is. Project Paperclip was the main trigger for a lot of this shit. But even before Project Paperclip, we had a lot of other bullshit going out. A whole lot of bullshit going on. But anyway, before I ramble on anymore, let me go ahead and finish this article here. When I talk about self-defense, I'm talking about keeping yourself and your loved ones safe from harm. There is much more to it than learning how to strike or kick. The best personal protection plans consist of different layers, and the first layers aren't physical. These are the most important layers. Let me repeat that the layers before you get physical are the most important, and they are. Teaching a small 100-pound female how to physically defeat a 250-pound football player is extremely difficult. Size and strength matter, but if you keep yourself safe without going physical. It's a win without getting hurt. I'm not saying a person shouldn't learn physical skills to defend themselves. I believe everyone should. That's one of the reasons I teach those too. But if you don't learn these first layers, you are missing out on some of the most important personal safety principles you can learn and practice. Everyone, regardless of size or strength, you can increase their personal safety by, hold on, did I pronounce that wrong? Regardless of size or strength, can't I guess yeah, I don't know about that one. But regardless of size or strength, can increase their physical safety by learning and practicing these first layers. These layers include awareness, avoidance, de-escalation, boundary setting. And that's what I was saying. Set a boundary. When they try to like really fuck with you, like repeated sentences, people, the police use the same tactic. Let me tell you about something that happened right a while ago. Just before I continue with this, and it's very important because it's very well. You're gonna see exactly what I'm getting at. Okay, one of my old jobs, right? One of my old jobs. The there was some stuff coming up missing, right? And this was around the time when this faction of this of the place I was working for was going out of business. Now, here's the deal though. These things came up missing. I know for a fact I didn't have nothing to do with taking either one of these things. So what they did was they had a detective come in, right? And they ended up interviewing everybody one by one in the car, right? This was on the over the phone when they did it with me though, and several other people when they were doing the questioning and stuff. So I'm like, okay. From what I recall, I was sweeping the area, and that was it. I was told to just sweep, and that was it, and that's what I was doing. If anything came up missing, it would have been out of my view space because I mean that warehouse is huge, and because of us moving so much stuff, there was a lot of blind spots. So there's no way I would have been able to see much of anything. Most of the people were like on the other side of the warehouse anyway. So that was my situation. So the guy really started ramping up the questioning. Mind you, everybody, this guy repeated several of the same questions just to see if my story would stay straight. I never changed it. It stayed the same as it was. Now, I started asking him, can I ask you some questions? And he was like, okay. So my first question was, why in the hell you hire this place hires temps, right? He's like, yeah. So why in the hell would you hire temps, people of backgrounds who you have absolutely no idea what they could possibly be, by the way? You hire them to work in a warehouse with expensive equipment that's well over $100, which is, when something like that of that value gets stolen, that's way over a felony. When something like it just didn't add up. Like it was very odd. Why the fuck would you hire temps in a building to handle paid off expensive equipment and well, no cameras, no cameras in the damn place at all, none. And I'm just like, what do you see? Like you were just basically asking for that shit to happen. Is what I'm getting at. So like, how I don't see how they could get pissed off. And if anything, that really is the fault of the person who was managing the damn property. When I asked that question, they wanted to end the conversation right there. They wanted to end it. You see what was happening? They want to solely blame this shit on the people who did it and not on the people who should have taken precaution to prevent it. That was the problem right there. And that's why this was a damn detective. I got a fucking detective not even wanting to talk to me after that shit. That's a clear example on how I was able to basically get that shit straightened out. And it wouldn't have been the first time I've done something like that. I've been was able to handle conversations like that before because I'm aware of what that tactic is. When it comes to shit like that, stay true to your story. Keep the same thing going. Don't fall for the trick. Don't fall for the ruse because they use that as an attempt to set you up. And let me tell you something. A lot of people aren't aware of this, but they do a lot of illegal shit in an interrogation room. They do. Yes, they do. They use intimidation, verbal harassment. They'll raise their voice. They'll do all kinds of shit. Oh yes, they will. They will. And they do this as a means to break the person's morale down and to put them in an unstable situation to where they would either give a confession under duress, anything like that. And you can't do that because that person's obviously only doing that just to end the harassment. At that point, they're so far broken down, they just want the shit to stop. Everybody, this is no different what they use directed energy weapons for. Same shit. Just in the form of no touch torture. But no touch torture is a lot fucked up than you think. A lot for you all who don't know. No torture is a hell of a lot worse than you may think. Way worse. It has been linked to human trafficking and so many factors. It has been linked to very unethical human experimentation and much more. Oh yeah, much more. Anyway, let's continue. If your personal protection and self-defense training does include these, add them. They are, what the hell, dude? These are extremely important. I include them in the workshops and classes I give to various groups when teaching personal safety and self-defense. And there will be much more coming on the survival and defensive website on this topics, as well as a lot on physical defense skills and attack. Back, they are all important. Oh, attacking back, they are all important. Okay. Many others also teach these skills, so just be sure you are learning and practicing these softer skills of self-defense along with your strike, kicks, throws, and physical techniques. These will help you fight without fighting, and that's the best way to keep yourself, loved ones, safe from harm. The best way of self-defense is I'm not even gonna bother going into all of that because it looks like the writing was kind of messed up in some certain parts, but maybe not. I don't know. I guess I could check out another part. It says next art. It says like next post, so hopefully it's still the same. I could be wrong. It could be something entirely different. Oh, okay, no, it's still the same thing. The Griffin Grip Self-Defense Tool. Looks like some sort of ring. Self-defense tool that literally fits in the palm of your hand. In a nutshell, you could say it is a hard plastic ring you wear upside down on your finger. So the plastic part is under your finger inside your hand rather than on top of the finger, as rings are worn, but it is a bit more than just that. It is made of a high-impact plastic polymer, which is adjustable leather straps that you need to measure and tie off to fit your hand. The plastic comes to around a point, so it won't penetrate, but rather it is used for pressure or impact. The grip is available in different colors, including black, sand, OD green, navy blue, and pink. The use of the tool is fairly easy, especially for those that have had any martial arts or self-defense training. The grip adds to any slap, blocks, or parries. It is a form of strike enhancer that allows a slap to the head or a slap block to a leg or arm. Back a bit more into striking the back of the hand sharply and hard with the grip. This guy, this is why I'm glad I did a video on this. I'm glad I did a video because like he's not really explaining too much or going into detail about how to disengage stuff like that when it comes to forms of self-defense. He's not going into the different tactics of verbalization. So I'm definitely glad I made this video. Anyway, striking back the hand sharply and hard with the grip. If someone grabs a hold of you, will most likely surely get him to release unless for some reason he has an extremely high pain threshold. Alternatively, you can also grab a hold of a person with the grip against the back of the hand or bone, such as the wrist, and squeeze. The result is a good amount of pain. Slaps aside the head also produces more pain than an ordinary strike. Now, here's the thing. If someone is coming at you with a knife and they immediately do a lunge, like a forward thrust, you're going to want to be on the side that is closer towards where they're let's say they're using their right hand to try to, do a lunge with the knife, right? You would want to basically, if you can do this, and you need to time it right, you would want to curve your hand around their wrist, going under the wrist, so you can be able to grab it, and then you can push it towards your, farther. Let's say you're facing them, you would be pushing it towards the right hand side. At the same time, you would be turning your torso from your left hand side. You'd be turning it clockwise, and then at that moment you would be aiming for their neck, pulling their arm back and then having their stretching, using your left arm to basically stretch their neck out from their arm, so basically to disengage the knife. At the same time you're doing this, you would also have to position your feet in a good position to basically trip them, to get them on the ground, and that is how you would be able to. That's one of many techniques you can use to disarm someone coming at you with a knife. But you like again, like there's like a 75% chance that you would basically be successful in that, because again, there are veterans in these techniques and there are amateurs in these techniques. The more the more easy it is for you. The more experience you have, the better, to be honest. But I could go on and on about these, but like it's just gonna be no different, you know. At this point, I believe I've already went over more than enough of things that is in relative to this. Now, a lot of times when you are facing off against somebody, like a lot of them tend to like to grab or whatever. One thing you gotta pay attention to, well, when they're trying to do that, there are certain points of where they leave exposed. Like if they try grabbing you at that point, technically you even like here's the thing. This is where pepper spray comes in handy. If they try to basically grab you or attack you in that kind of way, you have the right to use pepper spray. That blinds them. That immediately disengages them, and they can't really do any harm, and you don't really do much harm to them at all. I mean, sure, it's gonna really fucking hurt to them, but they had no business putting their hands on you in the first place, right? Okay. There you. He says, "Let me repeat. You must have the mindset to be willing to defend yourself. While this might seem obvious, the fact that most people are rarely face a deadly confrontation in their lifetime, many will live their entire lives without ever being confronted by the savagery that real violence entails." Now, here's the thing. I was being hit. This was around. I told you all about this before. This is around the time when I was still being hit like pretty badly with these weapons. I was still working at the time, and I had caught these perps. They're idiots. They're idiots, and this is why I say like these people aren't the really smartest people on the planet. They're not. They're not. No way in shape or form they are. It's very dumb to have yourself parked in, have two cars next to each other. You're stalking somebody, and you're in these cars. It's very dumb to have the fucking engine going loud enough for me to hear all the way on the other side of the parking lot like that. And not to mention the car is facing me. Not to mention, as I make my approach, knowing that I usually walk through that area, right? They have a sun visor that make it even more suspicious. Dude, if they had not have done that shit, I wouldn't even, I wouldn't even pay no mind. The reason why I say the sun visor thing that they had on their windshield was suspicious is because people only have that up at night. Have you ever heard of someone having that shit up in their car and then when there's no sun in the sky, right? With the car running. Have you ever heard of somebody doing some shit like that? The only people who would do something like that is people who don't want to be seen. Why would they not want to be seen? That's why it didn't matter that I didn't see their faces. I simply went and got the license plate numbers because the shit was that suspicious. They did not want to be seen. They didn't want to be identified. And it may get worse. The dude walks out of his car after I get the license plate, begging me to please just erase the footage. People, fellow TIs, these gang stalkers are not protected. They're not. You think that these people in the courts are really gonna, if this shit, I believe, like, depending on the degree of the crime they committed, they may try to pull some strings, but like if the shit is too serious, they're gonna immediately cut ties with that person. They know this. They know this. Why? I remember watching a video on Nappy Head of Roots' channel, and I even uploaded this to this in one of the compilation vids on this channel too. This dude was saying that like they have to sign a non-disclosure agreement that they are 100% liable for their bullshit. This is why when these perps act out, and trust me, they are very cautious when it comes to their bullshit with me because they know, and they tell other fucking perps don't talk to them. You cannot talk to them. You can't do it because they know what's gonna happen if they do. The only time they ever talk to me is when it's just scripted. I don't know if y'all can hear that, but I do have my right frequency. It's what is that? The 35 right frequencies for parasites playing. I got that playing right now. But I do have it covered up. So I don't. If you guys do hear that in the background, you do have my apologies for that one. But if you're wondering, that is the most powerful right frequency you're gonna find on YouTube to deal with the parasites. These things cannot stand that. But even with me mentioning all of this stuff, the most important thing for TIs to do, the very most important thing, you need to build yourself an anti-nano bucket or barrel, one or the other. You need to start detoxing this stuff out of your system, and you need to start changing your diet up. You need to get this stuff out of your system because I'm just going to tell you, it's not a fair situation that they use these weapons of manipulation, and you're supposed to be well within your rights to still protect yourself. It's a very unfair situation. That's why you must detoxify this stuff out of your system. With my situation, I still need to take another bath in the barrel today, and I'm definitely going to do that. But I gotta say, for my symptoms, it's getting to the point where I can actually feel exactly. I literally just the other day, I felt precisely when the exact actual time when I was being hit with these weapons, not the after effects, exactly precisely when it happened. This happened in what, like my right side ear, and I could actually feel the tinnitus building up. Now, why is that important? Simple, because my symptoms, I wasn't feeling that effect before. I wasn't able to tell exactly when this stuff was happening. So the fact that I can feel this stuff moving around now a lot more so than before shows me that I am successful in detoxifying my body. And if I keep this up, and yes, this stuff has been coming out of my system, I'm not going to show video footage of it because it's not a pretty sight that you all would want to see. But if you do a detoxification, again, when it comes to your diet, you cannot be eating anything processed. The one thing you can probably get away with eating, I say like some Ritz crackers. Crackers are okay, but cheese snacks, that has canola oil in it, so I'm afraid not. Just about every single cheese snack has canola oil in it. That stuff is linked to heart diseases. You don't want that in your system. You don't want anything that's cereal related at all either. If you don't believe me, they put that has a lot of cereal tends to have a lot of that bad stuff in it. I haven't eaten cereal in so long, man. I just what I'm getting at is like anything processed. Cereal is processed. The stuff in the freezer aisle, even ice cream, all processed. Anything processed you don't want to be eating. Anything in a can you don't want to be eating because that contains heavy metals. Anything containing high fructose corn syrup you don't want to be eating. Anything like that you want to immediately just exclude out of your diet. All of that stuff. I've already mentioned just a few foods that I actually went out and got. Avocados, walnuts, the naked drinks, those are very good. V8, not the V8 Fusion, just a regular V8, those are good. I ended up getting some celery stalk and some ranch dressing. That's a good thing to do. Same thing with all the vegetables. The only problem is that you want to find vegetables that are in a non-GM, that actually are labeled non-GMO. If you can find them, they are out there. It's not easy. However, anything fruit related, I'm sorry, if they didn't use a greenhouse, chances are that it's just like Tony said, that whole damn thing is most likely saturated with the nanotech. When you wash these vegetables off, use distilled water. Use distilled water out of the bottle to rinse these things off. not sink water. You don't want to be putting fluoride in your system. And if anything, I've actually been decalcifying my pineal gland as well. Now you can do this with sun gazing, and there's also a ride frequency on YouTube that does this as well. Also, when you sleep, you don't want to have your Wi-Fi on. You don't want to have your devices near you at all. You need to sleep in complete darkness in order for your pineal gland to be decalcifying itself and to be activated. Why do you think they are so desperate to have it turned off and have it closed? You are a lot more stronger than you realize. That's why this whole thing is important. I hope all TIs are having a wonderful day. I hope your morning is going well, minus the targeting. Stay safe. Stay strong, everybody.